Hello and welcome. We're so glad to have you here with us. Today, Max and I are talking about one of the biggest parts of learning English, vocabulary. You know, learning new words can seem like a big task, but it's a very important part of becoming better at English. Right, Max?
Absolutely, Emma. Vocabulary is how we understand and talk about everything. Without words, we wouldn't be able to say what we want, feel, or think. But here's the good news. There are so many fun and interesting ways to build up your vocabulary. You don't have to just sit with a dictionary and memorize words.
Yes, that would be really boring, right? So, our goal today is to share some easy, effective, and enjoyable methods to help you learn more words in English. And remember, you don't have to learn hundreds of new words every day. Even learning just a few words each day can make a big difference over time.
Exactly, and one of the first methods we want to talk about is something called context learning. That's when you learn a new word by seeing it in a sentence or story, not just by itself. For example, if you're reading a short story or listening to a conversation, you might come across a new word. Instead of just writing it down, try to understand its meaning from the other words around it.
Yes, context can help you guess what a word means. Let's say you read the sentence, "The sky was filled with fluffy clouds, and it looked peaceful." Even if you don't know the word fluffy, you might understand it means something soft or light because it describes clouds. That's the power of context. It gives you clues.
Another great method is repetition. When you learn a new word, don't just look at it once and then forget it. Try to use it several times over the next few days. You can write it down, say it out loud, or use it in a sentence. Repeating the word helps your brain remember it better. It's like making a new friend. The more time you spend together, the better you remember them.
That's so true, Max. And a fun way to practice repetition is by using flashcards. Flashcards are small cards with a word on one side and the meaning on the other. You can make your own or use an app on your phone. They're great because you can quickly go over a lot of words and see which ones you remember. Plus, you can take them anywhere on the bus, during a break, wherever you like.
Flashcards are awesome, and here's another idea: grouping words. This means learning words that are related to each other. For example, if you're learning about food, you can learn the words apple, banana, grapes, and peach together. Or if you're learning about feelings, you could learn happy, sad, excited, and angry. Grouping helps because when you learn similar words, your brain connects them.
That's a great point, Max. And another method that's very powerful is using pictures. Seeing an image of a new word can make it stick in your memory. For example, if you're learning the word forest, looking at a picture of a forest can help you remember it better than just reading the word.
Yes, our brains love pictures, and this is why watching videos or reading books with pictures can be so helpful. When you see something and hear it, it stays with you longer. If you're a beginner, start with picture books or short videos that have subtitles. This way, you can connect the word with its image and meaning right away.
Another fun way to learn is through music and songs. Songs have rhythm, melody, and emotional things that make learning more memorable. You might find a song with a lot of new words, but listening to it a few times can help you understand and remember those words.
Yes, and don't worry if you don't understand every word at first. Even just hearing a word repeated in a song can help you remember it. After a few times, try to look up any words you don't know and see if you can understand the song better.
Music is amazing for vocabulary, especially if you find songs that you enjoy. Another way to keep learning every day is with real-life conversations. If you have friends who speak English, ask them to help you practice. You could even talk to yourself in English. Describe things around you, say what you're doing, or share your thoughts out loud. It sounds funny, but it really works.
Absolutely, Emma. Practicing by speaking even to yourself is a great way to keep words active in your mind. And if you don't have someone to practice with, you can try recording yourself. Later, you can listen and check if you're using words correctly. It's like having a conversation partner who's always available.
And let's not forget about games. Games like word search, crosswords, or online vocabulary games can make learning feel like play. You're still learning new words, but it doesn't feel like studying.
All right, let's keep going. Last time, we talked about different ways to learn new English words, like using context, repetition, and even music. And we still have more helpful tips to explore. Here's a big one that I really like: learning by teaching. This means when you learn a new word, try to explain it to someone else. When you teach something, you have to understand it well, which helps you remember it better.
That's a great idea, Max. And even if you don't have anyone to explain the word to, you can try writing it down in your own words. So, for example, if you learned the word imagine, you could write a sentence explaining what it means. It could be something like, imagine means to picture something in your mind. This makes you think about the word and understand it deeply.
Exactly, and if you enjoy writing, there's another great method: keeping a vocabulary journal. Every time you learn a new word, write it down in your journal. But don't just write the word at the definition, an example sentence, and maybe even a little drawing. Over time, you'll have a whole collection of words you've learned, and you can look back anytime you need to.
I love that idea. A journal can also be a creative way to learn. You could even write short stories or sentences using your new words. And here's a little trick. Try using words from your journal at least once every day. Maybe you can write a sentence in the morning or try to use the word in a conversation. The more you use it, the easier it becomes to remember.
Yes, and using words in different ways helps too. For example, if you learned the word happy, you could say, I feel happy, or that's a happy song. You're practicing how to use the word in different contexts, which makes it easier to remember and use it correctly.
That's really important, Max. And another fun way to learn is to connect new English words to your language. So, if you have a word that's similar in your language, use that to help you remember it. Let's say, for example, that restaurant is similar in English and in your language. This can make it easier to remember and build on.
Right, and along with that, we have something called word association. This is when you connect a new word to something familiar. For example, if you're learning the word bright, you might think of the sun because the sun is bright. The idea is to connect the new word to something you already know well.
That's such a great idea, Max. Associations make learning fun and unique to you. And another way to remember new words is through stories and examples. When you learn a new word, think of a situation or memory that fits the word. So if you're learning the word excited, remember a time when you felt excited, like before a birthday or a big trip.
Yes, personal stories help a lot. If the word is connected to your life, you're much more likely to remember it. And here's another trick: use synonyms and antonyms. When you learn a new word, try to also learn a word with a similar meaning and one with an opposite meaning. For example, if you're learning big, you could also learn large as a synonym and small as an antonym.
Oh, that's perfect. Synonyms and antonyms make your vocabulary richer, because you'll have more words to choose from when you're speaking or writing. Another great method is labeling items around you. If you're trying to remember words for everyday objects, like door, window, desk, or chair, you could put small labels on these items in your room or house.
That's such a creative method, Emma. Labels are a great way to connect words to real-life objects. Plus, every time you see the label, you'll get a reminder of the word. And if you're ready for a challenge, you could even try thinking about your day in English. Describe what you're doing out loud, like I'm making coffee or I'm going for a walk. This practice helps keep vocabulary active in your mind.
Yes, talking about your day in English even to yourself is fantastic practice. And if you're not sure about a word, try looking it up. Another really useful habit is to use a thesaurus. A thesaurus is a book or tool that gives you other words with similar meanings. If you look up happy, a thesaurus might suggest words like joyful, cheerful, and glad.
That's a fantastic tip, Emma. A thesaurus can help you find words you might not have thought of, and it's great for adding variety to your vocabulary. And for more advanced learners, I suggest trying word roots. Many English words come from Greek or Latin roots. For example, the word telephone has tele, which means far, and phone, which means sound. Knowing roots can help you guess the meanings of new words.
Yes, learning roots can be really helpful, especially for longer words. It's like understanding the building blocks of language. And here's one of my favorites, using English subtitles when you watch shows or movies. You don't have to understand every word, but subtitles let you see and hear new words at the same time. This makes learning more natural.
And if you find a new word while watching, try to write it down and look it up later. Watching with subtitles is also great because it's relaxed learning. You're having fun and learning at the same time. Speaking of having fun, another idea is to read aloud. Reading out loud helps you with pronunciation and lets you hear the words, which makes them stick in your mind.
Reading aloud is such a helpful habit. It builds confidence in using words and makes it easier to remember them. And if you're reading something interesting, you're likely to see some of those words again and again, which strengthens your memory. Oh, and don't forget about using real-life examples. For instance, if you learn the word delicious, you can use it next time you eat something tasty.
That's a great one, Emma. Real-life examples keep words meaningful and connected to your experiences. And another method I enjoy is joining online forums or language groups. You can find people to practice with, share new words, and talk about what you're learning. Practicing in a group setting makes learning more social and fun.
Yes, community is so important for learning. Speaking with others or joining a group gives you a chance to hear different words and phrases that you might not find in a textbook. Plus, you can ask questions and learn from each other's experiences. And when you're learning new words, try not to stress. Just take it step by step.
Great advice, Emma. Vocabulary doesn't have to be overwhelming if you take it one word at a time. It's like building a puzzle. Each word is a piece, and over time, you create a bigger picture of your English skills. So remember, enjoy the process and keep adding to your vocabulary toolbox.
So let's keep going. We've talked about a lot of different ways to learn new vocabulary, and there's still so much we can try. Another method that I love is learning phrases, not just single words. When we learn vocabulary in phrases, it helps us remember how to use the word naturally. For example, instead of only learning the word beautiful, you could learn the phrase a beautiful day or that's beautiful. This way, you have ready-to-use sentences that feel natural.
That's a great idea, Emma. When you learn words in chunks or phrases, it's much easier to use them in real conversations. Plus, you get to learn a little bit about sentence structure without even realizing it. This can help with understanding grammar, too, because you start to see how words work together in English.
Exactly, Max. And here's something else that's really useful: setting small goals. Learning a language takes time, so it's helpful to set small, specific goals for vocabulary. Instead of saying, "I want to learn 100 new words this week," try setting a goal like, "I'll learn 5 new words a day." Small goals are easier to reach, and they keep you motivated because you feel like you're making progress.
Yes, small goals make learning feel less overwhelming. And speaking of small, another thing that helps is learning common and practical words first. Some words are used very often in English, so it's a good idea to learn those first. For example, words like think, feel, need, go, and find are used all the time in everyday speech. When you know these words, you can understand a lot of sentences, even if you don't know every single word.
That's such a great point. Focusing on common words gives you a strong base to build on. Once you know a lot of these, it's easier to learn more complex words because you already have the basics. And here's something fun you can try: learning with stories. Read short stories, fairy tales, or even news articles. Stories often repeat words, so you get to see them used again and again.
Stories are fantastic for language learning. When you're interested in the story, you focus on understanding, not just on individual words. And that's powerful. Also, stories often use casual, everyday language, which is really useful for conversations. You don't have to understand every single word to get the idea, and that helps you build confidence.
Yes, confidence is so important, and stories help you with that. Another way to learn confidently is by practicing pronunciation. When you learn a new word, it's not just about knowing the meaning, you also want to know how to say it. Try repeating words out loud or using an app that lets you record and check your pronunciation. Good pronunciation makes it easier for people to understand you.
Definitely, Emma, and when your pronunciation is good, it also makes you feel more comfortable speaking. Sometimes, even if you know a word well, you might hesitate if you're not sure how to pronounce it. So, saying it out loud really helps. You can even use mirrors to see how your mouth moves or practice with tongue twisters for fun.
That's a fun way to practice. And here's another method that many people find useful: shadowing. This means listening to a native speaker, like in a video or a podcast, and then repeating what they say right after. It's almost like being their shadow. Shadowing helps you learn the natural flow of English, and you're practicing vocabulary and pronunciation at the same time.
Yes, shadowing is so powerful because it lets you copy the way English sounds in real conversations. You're getting used to the rhythm of the language. And even if you're not perfect at first, keep trying. Every time you practice, you'll improve a little more. And here's another idea that can help: learning with emotions. When you connect a word to a feeling, it sticks in your memory better.
That's true, Max. Emotions make words more memorable. For example, if you're learning the word exciting, think of a time when you felt really excited, maybe at a concert or a party. The feeling makes the word stronger in your mind. And for the opposite, if you're learning a sad word, you can think of a sad moment. The emotion helps the word stick.
Yes, emotions give words real-life meaning. Another method is using visualization. When you learn a new word, try to picture it in your mind. For example, if you learn forest, close your eyes and imagine a big, green forest with tall trees. When you make a mental picture, it connects the word to something real in your memory.
Visualization is great, Max. And here's another interesting way to learn: writing your own examples. If you're learning a new word, try writing your own sentences with it. For instance, if you learn the word bright, you could write, "The sun is very bright today," or "Her smile was bright and happy." When you create your own examples, the word becomes personal to you, and it's easier to remember.
That's a smart approach, Emma, and here's one more technique that works well: learning with different types of media. Each type, like books, videos, podcasts, and even social media, uses language differently. So, if you read a book, you might see different vocabulary than if you watch a movie. Mixing these helps you see words in different ways and keeps learning interesting.
Great point. Trying different types of media exposes you to a variety of words and phrases. And speaking of variety, we shouldn't forget about reviewing regularly. Learning doesn't mean just moving from one new word to the next. Review is really important. Go back to words you've learned before and see if you still remember them. Reviewing helps move words from short-term to long-term memory.
Absolutely. A little review every few days or weeks helps so much. Sometimes, if you don't review, you might forget words you worked hard to learn. So, maybe once a week, go back to your vocabulary journal or flashcards and check your memory. You might be surprised at how much you remember when you review.
Yes, reviewing is like watering a plant. It helps the words grow in your mind. And speaking of growing, there's something that can boost your learning speed, and that's staying curious. Always be curious about the words you don't know. If you hear or see a word that's new, make it a habit to look it up or ask someone about it. Curiosity keeps learning exciting.
Curiosity is key. When you're interested, learning feels like a fun adventure, not a chore. And each new word is like a clue that helps you understand the language better. Plus, when you learn words that you're curious about, you remember them longer because they feel more meaningful.
That's true. And on the topic of meaningful learning, here's one last thing to remember. Be patient with yourself. Learning vocabulary, or any new skill, takes time. You might not remember every word right away, and that's okay. Keep practicing, keep using the methods we've talked about, and celebrate the progress you make, even if it's small.
Yes, patience is so important. Every word you learn is progress, and even if it feels slow, it's moving you forward. Don't worry if you don't know every word right now. Over time, you'll see how much you've grown, and it will feel amazing. Just keep practicing and keep going.
Exactly, Max. Vocabulary learning is like a journey, and each new word is a step along the way. And with all these tips and methods, we hope that journey will be more fun and interesting for you. Try a few of these ideas, find what works best for you, and keep adding to your vocabulary.
Yes, and remember, it's okay to learn at your own pace. Just stay consistent, stay curious, and enjoy the process. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope these tips will help you feel more confident with English vocabulary.
And before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you found this helpful, please share it with your family and friends who might also be learning English. Learning is better when you have people to share it with. Thanks for being here with us today, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep learning, and we're cheering for you every step of the way.
Goodbye.